I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Reyes Reflection podcast, where we are always free to subscribe. Check me out on those socials at I'm Nathanael Reyes. Customarily, I have to plug in those partners, ARAVE Cards, Jocko Fuel, SMACKIN Sunflower Seeds, and Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aftercare. Go to my link tree, and you will get exclusive deals for those sites. Now, intro time from our next guest. We've got someone truly incredible. She's not just a psychic medium, but a healer, hypnotist, paranormal investigator, and business mogul. She has worked with thousands of clients, bringing messages from the spiritual realm, guiding people through transformative healing, and even exploring the shadows in paranormal investigations. From her businesses like the Soul and Shadow Emporium to her appearance on the Travel Channel's Psychic Expert series, she has created a life and career that blends love, light, and a deep connection to the other side. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the breakthrough medium, Brandie Well. Thank you for coming on.
Wow, thank you for that intro. I feel amazing now.
That's my favorite part of doing this is when people say their intro makes them feel really pepped up and excited, because I take time to write them down.
You're good at it.
I don't fool around with my intro game. So thank you for
Yeah.
saying that. Another check for a good job on the intro.
Yeah, there you go.
So, Brandie, let's kick things right off from the start. Were there any moments in your childhood where you felt a connection to the spiritual realm, or did you just get this later on in life?
Yeah, so, when you're a kid, you're just being a kid. So these are all, I would say, reflective moments where I have looked back, because many people have asked me that question. Where did your journey begin? And I have two pivotal experiences that I'll share with you. One is that when I was young, my grandmother was bipolar with manic depression, but she was actually very gifted, but didn't know how to use it. She had a hard time deciphering reality from her reality because of her mental health issues. But she was an absolutely beautiful woman, and very connected to spirit. And I grew up with a firm belief in the angels and the afterlife because of her, because she would speak of them all the time. It was really part of my life, and I knew that the angels were helping us in all things. So when I would pray, because my grandmother would teach me to pray, I would call the loved ones to me, and I would actually see and experience them. So I had another grandmother who was in spirit, and when I would pray to her, she would float across the room and she would sit with me. When I prayed to Mother Mary, I would watch Mother Mary float across the room with her eyes half gazed, and she would sit with me and I would, talk to her. When I'd pray to the angels, they would float into the room. So I thought that that's why people pray, was so they were calling in their deities and their loved ones. I didn't know that not everyone saw them and experienced them the way that I did. Moving into 1984, when I was 12, I'm now aging myself. Yes, I am 49, people. I'm going to be 50 this year. Cannot believe it. Cannot. I don't really care about age, but I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to be 50. Anyways, but in 1984, I was in my home in Keene, New Hampshire, and out my back window, I saw these three lights, and they were surfing over the hillside. We had a pretty big backyard that was very cleared, and it was kind of in between. And there was a highway on the other side, so I was very confused because I couldn't tell what it was, and I yelled to my mom. My mom didn't come because, it was like, Mom, everybody. And when I yelled Mom, within a split second, it was right in front of my window. It was a UFO. It was about 9 feet wide, and it looked like a tic tac with shape, It was opalescent, it had 3 lights on it. I yelled really loud at that point because I was terrified because it was right behind my window. And that second time that I yelled, it vibrated so loud that the window pane was shaking and the vibration moved right into my chest. And I was shocked for a moment. This is all happening within seconds, mind you. And then my mom came down. She was, coming down the hall because I sounded more urgent. And she saw the tail end of it zip off. The next morning, it was all over the newspapers about the UFO that many people saw. And if anyone wants to look it up, it's called the Zeller encounter. Zeller, Zeller. I started astral projecting at that time. If anyone out there wants to know what astral projecting is, it's essentially your soul leaving your body and it goes off on a journey all its own and then it comes back. What most people don't realize is when you're astral projecting, your soul has to come back into your body. And a lot of times it has a hard time after journeying because it's in a different frequency coming back into the body, and people will have what they call sleep paralysis. So when people are talking about sleep paralysis, it's actually a moment in time where your soul is trying to get back into your body. And I started having these sleep paralysis episodes. So what I realized was, in hindsight, looking back at my life, that vibration changed me. And I was already very connected to spirit in my own way. But this cracked me open in some strange way, because I then knew every kid in my class that was hurt or abused or sad or lonely, and all I wanted to do was help people. And I was so concerned about the outside world. It's as if my empath abilities heightened, and I was just hyper attuned to everyone else's energy, vibration, and what they were going through in life. And it was very hard and confusing. I actually questioned my own mental health as a young person because I felt everything so deeply, and it caused a lot of anxiety and pain for me. So that's where I was a kid, but as an adult looking back, I didn't know that at the time, that it was really, an indicator of being a highly spiritual person or someone that was, connected to spirit.
Right. Like as a kid, you're still figuring things out. So how are you going to have the emotional intelligence to figure out the feelings that you're having?
Exactly.
Right? Like kids don't even have that type of emotional maturation, right? Like if a kid doesn't get pepperoni pizza that day, they get cheese pizza, their whole day is ruined. Whereas you and I, we go, all right, maybe we'll get pepperoni pizza next day. But the kid, they don't realize that it bothers them. So I can't imagine what you went through and the mind matrix that you had to navigate through just to function, especially since you were seeing that at a very young age.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, you go about life just being who you are and doing what you do. And, it's like you're really a product of your environment as you're moving through life. And some other things that have really come to the surface for me in processing my life and why I'm on the journey I'm on and doing what I do for work, because what I do is very unique. I'm a weirdo, okay? But I expressed it through art. I expressed it through helping others in order to karmically heal myself. Because, when we are giving of ourselves, that feeling that people get, that supercharged feeling of being a good person and doing the right thing, that is actually your connection to your higher self, to spirit. It's part of your life force energy. So I just wanted to help people in order to feel that connection. And I was doing a lot of very mature things. Even at 14, I was working in a nursing home, And I was doing all of the cooking for the entire nursing home at 14, which would be totally illegal now. But anyways, but I was sitting with people as they were dying. I was, volunteering at, different places and trying to, and I think back and I know that that's because I was trying to fill that feeling of being an empath and wanting to be a helper healer in some way and just trying to figure out what my soul mission was. It's interesting to look back.
Yeah, and it seemed like you were on the right journey from the start. You just had to find the necessary steps to how to get there. So growing up, you talked about your grandmother and how she was an integral part in you finding that. Are there any other role models who influenced you during your path toward spiritual work?
That's a good question. I honestly feel like a lone wolf in my I don't have highly spiritual family members, or, even my mom was a little taken back by the journey I was on before she passed, but she was intrigued by it and, proud of me. My mom passed 7 years ago, and I was already deep into my spiritual journey and, really embracing being a psychic medium. I was just, starting to come out of come out of my shell. So, but as I mentioned, my grandmother, she really was influential on me. However, I know that on our soul journeys, that I am a much older soul than my grandmother was, because I was doing a lot of teaching to my grandmother. And even when I think back to when, I was a kid and I was helping her, and it's like I was her voice of reason so many times because she didn't have the capacity with being bipolar with manic depression, to move through life. So I haven't had a lot of role models. If anything, I have sought them out. And I have a lot of beautiful, I'd call them allies. And, I have many crone mothers, is what I would say. I have a lot of older, wise women that I lean into on my spiritual journey. And they are spiritual advisors for me. So when I'm in a really difficult situation, or I turn to them, and they're really other women who have been in the field that I'm in, but they've been in it. I have one older friend who's she's now in her 70s, and I feel that she was on a very similar path to me, moving through life. So, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are in life or what career, what profession, etc. You need people to take counsel in and to hold you
Yes.
accountable and to help you grow as a person, whether that be professionally, spiritually, emotionally. Yeah, we need those people. So I'm glad that you were able to find that, despite the fact that there may not have been a solid understanding of what you do or the path that you want to take. I'm glad that you have been able to find that for sure.
Yeah.
So I want to transition now a little bit into present day,
Mhm.
modern times. So you've worked as an angelic healer, a psychic medium, and even a hypnotist. Those are a lot of hats.
It
How
is.
did your
Yeah.
journey unfold in these areas now? So you went from, okay, I have this deep empath and respect and love for my fellow being, but now I'm going to expand on that. How did
Yeah,
that
how'd
play
that come
into it?
about? Well, I felt that if I were to open myself in this field, that it would be safe for me to start with angelic healing because that's all I had known. And what better way to open myself than in the angels, the highest vibrating beings that we can work with. And I started taking classes and courses. It really opened my eyes, because I didn't realize that by tapping in on the angelic realm, they would help me then connect to other beings in the spirit realm. And so every time I started connecting to the angels, they would start bringing people's loved ones to me. And I started doing readings. And what's funny is I was doing them. I was doing these, what I call girls' night in, and I would invite a whole bunch of women over. Instead of going out, I would invite them over and I would do readings for them in my home. And then I started doing phone readings. And I remember my first phone reading. I still remember it. I think, Facebook has always been a great platform for me in connecting. It is my favorite way to connect to people. I just really enjoy the way I can interact with them and post and inspire and, but it's also a great way to advertise, and promote. So I remember that I had attracted some people to what I was offering, and I said that I would start doing phone readings because I really didn't have a place to do readings, and bringing people to my home is not, I'll do that for people I know, but and my husband's also a very private person. So long story short, I started with phone readings, and I remember connecting, and I blew my own mind my first reading. I still remember it. I started connecting to this woman, and all of a sudden her father in spirit came in and started talking, and he told me how he passed and how he's helping his daughter, and his daughter now has a son, and he was saying how proud he is of this little boy and how he's, what he's going to do with his life. And, and her father had never even met the little boy yet. And it was just such a validating experience for her to know that he's watching over him. And, but I still remember how scared I was. I mean, my voice, I don't know if she heard it, but it was trembling because I was like, I'm actually doing this. But I know spirit was puppeting me the whole time, because by the end of that session, she was like, I have missed my dad so much, and you're the first medium who connected instantly to him. And it's exactly what I needed. And she didn't get to say goodbye to him. And, there was just, it was so healing. And that one reading then got me excited for the next one, and then the next one. And it's like the energy of spirit working through, because I am here to be at service to spirit. Although it's healing for the humans, it's spirit that is coming through. It's my job to, not long ago, I heard a message from my higher self, from my guides, and they said, all you are is an interpreter. And I was like, I am. It's kind of like an interpreter, for the deaf. You're an interpreter for the dead. And I was like, whoa, I hadn't really thought about it like that before. I'm really just interpreting what they're coming through with, the messages that they're sharing. So yeah, my journey, it's taken a lot of confidence, and a lot of fortitude, because I remember when I first started, and, I had to do the human thing. I'm working, 2 or 3 different jobs. I have 4 children. They're all amazing humans. And I'm raising my kids, and I'm juggling all these different elements of life. But I knew that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know that I'm being called to assist spirit in bringing message. And when I first started, my goal was to have 5 clients a week. And now I'm essentially booked out 3 months. And I can't handle having more than 6 clients a day. That's all I can handle for channeling, because it is, although it's enlightening, it's a very focused work. And it takes, a lot of preparation and energy. I feel every encounter. So yeah, it's been, and I have gained confidence. It's with the hypnosis aspect, which I can talk to you about in a moment. It brought a different element for me into my work, another layer of the onion, another healing tool. But by giving that hypnosis and offering that, when I am offering hypnosis, it's almost karmic in that what I'm offering people, whether it's, manifesting money hypnosis or, wellness and weight loss, all of those messages that I'm sending, they're moving through me and it ends up helping me. So, that I think the confidence has been the hardest part, really not believing in myself, but believing that people will be attracted to what I have to offer, that fear of rejection.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a product that you're selling and that
Yes.
you are also, like anything, it's your skills, it's your God-given gift, and then you are using that to make money. And that's what's happening to you, most definitely. Really inspiring, though, how you went from wanting 5 clients a week and now you're servicing over 4,000 a year.
Yes.
And that's really impressive. So that just goes to show the hard work that you've put in and those building blocks of confidence, of self-validation, and of just hard work for yourself. So kudos to you. I want to say that you've had a lot of success with helping others with the services that you provide. How did you know it was time to then open up shops such as Soul and Shadow Imperium and even just expanding into now a business, right? Because you went in from having just you were a sole proprietor with who you are, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're expanding and expanding.
Yes.
That's no small feat. So how do you manage that?
Yeah. I have some interesting driving forces that I have not shared with some people. So I'll get into a little bit of it. But the first thing that happened was, as I was developing my skills and building my confidence and really listening to spirit, because I do feel that they have just puppeted me the whole way through this. I just listen to spirit. I take the nudge. I take action. And what kept happening is I would hear as I was channeling for people certain tools that somebody would need. So perhaps someone really needed to, deeply cleanse their energy field with, dragon's blood sage, and they needed rose water, and I kept sending people on this path of, the tools that they need, and I realized that there wasn't access to all of those tools in my area. So in my mind, I thought, someday it'd be really neat to offer that. And I was very confident in managing retail stores, and that kind of came later because I actually worked with the developmentally disabled for 20 years. And I ran programming of a community center for 5 years of it. And then I had moved into running some retail stores and doing startup businesses for people. And so I did have this experience that, I always tell people everything we do prepares us for that next thing. That's why we're being called to it. It's to prepare us for the next action. And so I feel those things prepared me for opening a store. And so what happened was my mother passed away. My mom was a beautiful human being. She was a powerhouse female, and very important in the community that I'm in, because she, she was the one running. She actually worked for 5 different radio stations and managed all the sales departments, and she was like involved in every aspect of the community because of that. But what happened was when she got sick, it liquidated my parents' finances and their assets. And it basically left my mom with $8,000. That's all she had left. And I said, if that's all she's leaving for me and for my sister, I want to invest that in a fun, creative way that my kids will eventually benefit from. And so I said, it's not much, but I'm going to open a small business. And I opened my business with $8,000, which is insane. It was a 1,200 square foot storefront. And I found all of my furniture on the side of the road. I would like paint it, and you would not believe it. If you saw my store, my first store, it looked like a designer came in, but I swear to God, everything I found, I scrounged, I scraped bottom, and I ended up working some really good deals, and people loved my store. But every single dollar that came into my store went right back into my business. And as that's growing, I'm growing, my clientele, and people are starting to trust me. And I feel that once that trust was built, it became natural to attract clients. Once there's a trust established with your audience, that's when people are drawn to what you have to offer. And I feel that's when things turned for me. People trust me now. They know what I'm capable of and what I do. I have a clear message and a clear mission. So I certainly did grow that business, because what happened was I ended up opening another store next door, which is like, well, that's weird. Why would you open two different stores? Well, I had Soul Emporium, which was more high vibrational goods like crystals and hippy dippy unicorns and rainbows, like upbeat, vibrating, high vibrating goods. Okay. And then people kept asking me for things to do their shadow work. So like herbs and tarot cards, the deeper parts of our going inward. And so I opened Shadow Emporium next door, and I had two storefronts running for a while. So that got old, having two different stores, because it was hard to manage. I had people running back and forth all the time. And last year, and in between, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but essentially, I moved my store across the street to a 5,000 square foot space, opened a tea lounge in the back, and now I have over 150 different organic teas, and I have Shadow and Soul Emporium. So I did grow my business, and the best part is all of my children run my business. So I certainly grew it for them, and they were part of that growth, and I know my mom's looking down. So that's how I came to, the retail aspect. And as that's been growing, I have been growing. And I'm a very creative person. I actually used to, be an artist. And I feel that this is really like my palette now. It's where I express myself.
That's amazing that you were able to build something from the ground up with, some would argue, is a near impossible feat of $8,000 to open up a business. A lot of people would say, oh no, you need 20 grand for this, 10 grand for that. But the
I
fact
know.
and do it well and build it to the point where now your kids are running that's amazing. So once again, you have to give yourself a pat on the back, because I think a lot of times people will say they want things, but then they won't do the necessary steps.
Oh, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Small business is no joke. It is always on your mind, and it is a lifestyle.
Yeah. No, for sure. That's why when you watch Shark Tank and they say, oh, you got another job? I don't know if I want to invest in it, because, you got to 100% be in it, especially with a small business. So I completely understand.
Yeah.
You're the backbone, you're the face, you're everything to that company.
Yeah. And I mean, it comes with a great responsibility, because now I have 9 employees, and 3 of them are full time. So, my goal has been for everyone to know their role. And so my business has really evolved, especially over the last year, to having very specific roles for each employee, where it used to be, everyone was working, at the retail. I now have an operations manager. I now have a media and website design person who works for me. I have a general manager and a kitchen manager. So, it used to be, and it's actually made it more cohesive, and everyone knows their tasks. But what's really neat is I am able to pull back more and more, and I can still oversee my business. And, I am the one who makes sure, the monies are always there and everybody gets paid. But they really know their role, and I have amazing employees. It's not just my 4 kids, which they are amazing people, but it's also, I have other employees that are like family now. So yeah, it's kind of fun. And my dad works there, which is fun. He's retired, but he does the cleaning and maintenance, which is nice. So
Oh, that's awesome. So it's a nice family business. That's really cool. Yeah. I mean, and at that rate, you do have to talk kindly of your employees, because if they hear this, they might,
they are good people.
That's
I have
awesome.
to tell you about a stumbling block that I kind of mentioned in the prelude to your question about my business.
Please.
So, something I haven't shared publicly. When I opened my business, the biggest mistake that I made is that it was publicized before I registered my business names. And what happened was, being in a small town, our local sentinel decided that the paper on the windows was a call of action of, oh, there's a new business going in, let's interview her. Well, the same day that I was being interviewed, I had called my lawyer to register my business names for me. I shared those with the Sentinel, not thinking anything of it. And someone locally had bought my business names and then essentially told me I needed to pay him $5,000 to get my names back. Oh. I decided to ignore it. And I later reached out to the Secretary of State and I'm sharing this because it's more of like a warning to anyone who has a small business endeavor to really like keep it under your hat until you have everything secured, because these people are everywhere. Bullies and scam artists and scammers. Oh my gosh, this story's crazy. I can't get into all of it because I'm still in a legal. I'm sharing with you what I can. How's that?
I love it.
All right. So let's see. So from there, I decided that I would call the Secretary of State office in my state and let them know what happened to me and ask, what can I do about this? Because these are the business names that I wanted to use. Can I slightly alter them so I can still open my business? Because I already had created my logos and, I had already, my heart was, in it with the names and they resonated with me and it's what I wanted. Well, the Secretary of State did take note of what happened to me. They let me register my business names very slightly, so I was still able to use them, change them up a little bit. So a few months later, this gentleman then dropped the price of buying them back to something like $250, and I said, I'm not giving you anything. And I just tried to move on with my life. Well, I forewarned a local business owner that was getting involved with this person, and he ended up suing me for defamation. I have been in a 7-year lawsuit with this person. He dropped his claim against me a week before our trial, so I became the plaintiff. I went through an entire process of a trial. I was awarded by the jury. The judge made a mistake in the instructions and it was nullified. And so I ended up in an appeal court with the Superior Court. And I just found out last week that I won the appeal and now I have to go back for a retrial. So I have accumulated hundreds and thousands of dollars in legal fees. And I'm sharing this story because it has been, you want to see somebody who's motivated to make money? This girl, okay? I had never even been in court before this. It's been terrifying. I mean, I don't even know how I have been able to be as successful as I have with that hovering over me since the beginning of my business. So, there's the joyful aspect of, being an entrepreneur and the pride that comes with it, and, all of those elements that I just shared with you. But I have this like daunting weight, ball and chain that I've been carrying with me. And I've been in this lawsuit since I opened my business. And I hope that, it is over in the next year. I have no idea what's going to happen next. But I am just sharing with you, there's the light and the shadows of every experience, right? And so don't ever share your name publicly. My lawyer literally attempted to register the name the day after this man bought it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you that there's so many scumbags out there that have no regard for decency, and they just want to waste people's time and money. And you can clearly tell the fact that he started off with $5,000, then $250, and I don't even know the person, but I don't want to. But I'm glad that you have been able to still remain successful and remain steadfast in your goals and not let that dictate your success or your version of success, because there's so many people that it would ruin them. It would. And the fact that you didn't allow it to just goes to show the work ethic that you have. I'm sorry that you're going through that, because I hear that and I'm vexed, and I'm not even going through that.
Yeah. And you know what's strange about it though is, I'm in a place now. I mean, I've been doing this for 7 years. I was terrified. I feel like I lost myself for the first few years of it because it was terrifying. I mean, I had never been in court before. But when I look at it now, once again, that viewpoint of zooming out, being able to see things from a different vantage point in life, I find gratitude in it because I have proven to myself that even through something so difficult, through something so wrong, that I can still live my life in light, that I can still, have that same fortitude and not give up. So I find gratitude in the situation, and that I've learned a lot about myself and my resilience, and it, as awful as it is, it has motivated me because I have big fat bills to pay with my lawyer, So, when people are constantly going, oh my gosh, you're so busy, you're doing so great. And I'm like, you have no idea why. Like, yeah, it's great. I have, like I said, 9 employees, and my business needs to sustain itself. But coming up with that, it's just insane. It's insane to deal with. And someday it'll be over it, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to just run a business and not have this, So anyhow, I've never shared that story. I am still in it, and I'm sharing with you what is publicly known, but it has not been publicized because there are parts of my case that are sealed because of the emotional damages and, what I went through. So it sucks. And so if you're listening and you have a small business, keep your name to yourself until you register it. That's what I'm saying. Same thing with websites. Make sure that you're, don't just start searching for sites and, search for sites under a platform that does not reveal that site. Because what will happen is, I don't know, have you ever tried trying to lock in or secure a website and it's taken?
No, I never have. No.
Oh, so if you do that, what happens in the search is kind of grabbed by companies and then they buy them up. So if you search a website that doesn't exist, they will then buy the website. So if you decide that you wanted to open, a website, Nathanael Reyes, and you just searched it, somebody could swoop it up and buy it. So always make sure you're looking through a secured site so nobody buys it out from under you. So
Yeah.
little tips I've learned in business.
Well, a couple things. Thank you so much for being comfortable enough and sharing that on the podcast, because
Yeah.
I know that when you have legal battles and things
Oof.
of that, it's sometimes it's you just want to keep it in, but sometimes it is good to just be like, this is the BS that I'm going through. Here it is. It's out there. Boom, it's done. But I also want to say thank you for sharing those tidbits of information for small business owners or even people that want to make a name for themselves and don't know how, because there are a lot of times where people take advantage of those situations, right? Where people are trying to make a name for themselves, or they're trying to
Mm-hmm.
work hard, they're trying to be the best version of themselves. And so for you to just be so vulnerable and sharing that, I appreciate that. And you are 1000% right. There is no light without dark. I say that with everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
There is no light without dark. I The best example I use is water. Drink water. You need water to live, but you can also drown in it. There really is no light without dark. It's just that simple. I agree with that for sure.
Yeah.
Brandie, I got a couple more questions for you while we wrap up. With all your abilities, how do you protect your own energy while doing this intense and emotional work of other people's energy?
Yeah. Well, I feel that protecting your energy is really a choice, for one, and it is a lifestyle, because the only way to truly protect your energy is to be in a grounded space and to see yourself as your own sacred space. And so many of us walk around ungrounded. And some of the signs of being ungrounded, having anxiety is a sign of, actually, that's like the biggest indicator of being ungrounded. Not being able to make decisions, feeling like you're in this world but not of it. It's almost like feeling detached. And so when we ground ourselves, which is the state of connecting your earth body to the earth realm, okay? So a lot of times it's almost like we forget that we're here and we're human, and we use things like food to ground ourselves. We exercise to ground ourselves. It's to remind your body that it's here. But as soon as you ground, your root chakra is really it's the indicator of your foundational needs being met, food, shelter, foundational relationships. And when we are ungrounded, there is some aspect of that that is not connecting for us. So as soon as you ground your energy and recognize that your needs are being met, physically move your body, really anchor yourself, you are instantly in a space of vibrating high enough to be protected. I also have a ritual that I use every morning. I have a ritual I use every night, because I'm in a spiritual space 24/7. And I would recommend to anyone that you start each morning with a form of a meditation, because in our stillness, we hear the most. And in our stillness, we're able to really be present with ourselves and our higher selves. So when I get up every morning, I just sit on the edge of my bed and I feel my feet on the floor. I envision myself as a big tree, a big, mighty oak tree, and I push my roots deep down into the earth to ground myself. And then I call in the white light of heaven, of the divine, to work through me throughout my day. And I call that in, and I see it moving all the way down into those roots. And that is my protection. I also work with the archangels, because that's what I'm familiar with. And I have what I call the four pillars. And the four pillars are with me everywhere I go. If I'm on the plane, I call in the four pillars. If I'm, in the grocery store, the four pillars are there. And the four pillars are Archangel Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael. And they are here to work for humans. They want us to live our best life. So getting to know the archangels is like getting to know a friend. And what I love about connecting through the archangels is they're non-denominational. Like a lot of them did stem from different parts of Catholicism, and but many of the archangels were once human. So it's really neat to work with them because they all have very specific jobs that they can do for you. So Raphael is the angel of healing. Gabriel is the angel of creativity, maternal love, communication. Michael is the protector. Uriel lights the way to the future. So this angel can help you open up new doorways. So getting to know them and start calling them in, working with them in every area of your life, amazing things will start showing up for you. I can go off on all different tangents being a spiritual person. So I work with them to protect myself and my energy in the space I'm in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, I mean, whenever you work in this realm, it's hard to condense answers. Like when you throw a rock at a glass window and it just shatters, you can go down so many different paths in the spiritual realm. So I completely understand that. Yep. Do you ever encounter a client that may be a little skeptical at first initially? And if so, how do you guide them through the process or even just believing?
Yeah. So that's funny you're asking that. I had a show in Manchester last Friday, and it was a great audience. I honestly think that is the best show I've ever done. And I've done shows in Nashville and Chicago, but I was so on point. I was like, yes, like it was just such a good night I brought messages that were incredibly validating, and it was just crazy. It was like the best show I've ever done. And it felt amazing. Well, after the show, this woman comes up with her husband and he goes, "Look, I'm a skeptic." I'm like, "Okay, that's all right." And he's like, "Well, I just don't believe in this." And I said, "You don't have to. You take from me what you need. It's not my job to convince anyone of what I do. It's my job to be authentic and, live the mission of my life. And you take from that what you need." He walks away. He didn't say anything. I was like, okay, that was fun. Like, what was that about? And, in hindsight, I look back because what ended up happening was right after, this other man walks up to me and he goes, "I was a skeptic until tonight." He said, "I cannot believe how you connected to my 6-year-old brother who died." And he said, "I have carried this guilt my entire life that it was my fault." And hearing him explain that that is the way his life was supposed to unfold completely changed my life. He's like, "I don't know how you do what you do, but you changed my life." So, it's like, I'm sharing this with you because, in hindsight, I look back and I was like, okay, here's this guy who comes up to me and says, "I'm a skeptic," and 10 minutes later, this other guy comes up and goes, "I was a skeptic until," and I'm just laughing because, like I said, it's not my job to convince anyone of anything. It is my job to be of service to spirit. So, yeah.
Such a great perspective. And that just echoes our sentiment of what we said earlier. There's no light without dark, right? For every one skeptic, there's going to be one that converts into a believer.
Yes. And I have, it's really hard because the work I do is very unique and people do not understand that I actually do believe in God, and I believe in many gods for many people. I am open to learning and exploring, and I am not limited by anything. I am the most open-minded, loving, open book. And when I have people come at me, and I am telling you, they come at me. Last week, I probably deleted like 50 messages from people telling me that it is against the word of the Bible to be doing what I do. And I always remind people that Jesus was a medium. He was. He brought messages from the other side. And that the Bible is actually man-made and man-interpreted. And I am not against the Bible. I am not anti-religion. I actually believe in the word of the message and the word of God in Christianity. I am open to it. But I believe that there are many people who walk this earth that are meant to give that message. I do not feel it is limited to certain religions. If you are here to spread love and light to the world, do it. We need more of that. Tenfold more of that.
I'm a Christian myself, and I hear you say that, and I couldn't agree with you more. And I don't understand why people don't see it that way, in the sense of, even back in the Bible, there were many, many preachers, many different people that were speaking their perspective, their truths. And I don't understand why it becomes a situation of you're doing something immoral or wrong. And even how you said that you're open-minded to that there's other gods, I don't necessarily believe that, which is fine. But somebody else brought to me who's also Christian, they said, in the Bible, in the 10 Commandments, it says no other gods before me. Why is gods plural? Maybe there are more gods. At that point, I had to sit there and say, you might have a point. Now, I don't necessarily believe it, but you might have a point. I might be wrong. I don't have all the answers. It kind of annoys me when Christians have that mentality of, oh, if you like that, then you're this, or you're this, and you're that. And it's like, if you really are a Christian, then you have to understand that Jesus hung out with sinners. Jesus hung out with people who made mistakes. And there's so many examples in the Bible where there were messages that were sent to God, from God to man. And so I don't understand why we all of a sudden now believe that that doesn't exist in the modern
I
world.
find it very confusing because I feel the message of God was, to be loving and love thy neighbor.
Absolutely.
And there is so much judgment, which
Yep.
is human.
Yep.
Human is judgment. Judgment is connected to ego. That is not connected to spirit.
Yeah, you're 1,000% right. It's love thy neighbor as thyself. I agree. Have you ever had an encounter that was particularly spooky to you, or even just got you a little, that chill up your spine?
Yes. I investigate the paranormal, which, for an angelic healer, throws people off. But I do feel that I vibrate so high in my energy. It does not scare me because I know spirit. I don't want to say I'm untouchable with my energy, but I vibrate so high that I do not allow dark or heavy energy to enter my energy field. That's why people like investigating with me. But investigating for me is more about understanding why spirit is making themselves known in these locations and getting to know them and hear the story of this space. Like, why is spirit making themselves known? Well, I investigate some of the most notoriously haunted places in New England, including the Conjuring House, the Lizzie Borden House. I have been, if they are haunted, I've probably been there. So I was at the S.K. Pierce Victorian Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts, one of my favorite places to go. I actually have another investigation coming up in May. Can't get enough of it, even if they freak me out sometimes there. But I was up on the 3rd floor, and I was about to walk out of a room, and this tall, dark figure appeared right at the foot of, there's a spiral staircase that goes up off the building, and it was like right in the doorway of the spiral staircase. And all of a sudden it laughed at me in a deep voice. It went, ha, 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 like that. And what freaked me out is I didn't only hear it. I felt the vibration of the energy. I felt it. And the person with me, we experienced it together. So it wasn't a mediumship experience in that this is something I was tuning into and it was energy. It was right there. And I was running an investigation. And, I'm the confident medium. I'm good. Everything's good here, right? I was screaming like a little kid up on the 3rd floor, booking it down the stairs. I could not get down fast enough. It scared me. I know that it was the energy of Mr. Pierce manifesting into this form to get me to get off of that floor, because in that room, it was actually known as the billiards room, and it was only for men, and he doesn't like women in that room. And so it was not a demonic presence. It was him really appearing in this form to scare me. I haven't had that experience there since, but I go back still. Didn't stop me. So
Yeah. I love that stuff. I say that some of the stuff I would love to do is go down to Mexico and talk to people who believe in like the curse of La Llorona, all that stuff. I want to
Oh.
hear about that stuff because I'm similar to you. Even though I'm not a medium and I won't pretend to be one, I know that I'm protected, and I do have that mentality as well of like, I know my spirit is guarded and
Yes.
there's nothing that will penetrate that field. Finally, Brandie, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who's starting their spiritual journey or wanting to develop their own intuitive gifts, what would that be?
When I have people coming to me and they are in what I call an awakening, a spiritual awakening, it is a big shift in your energy. Usually it occurs when people have a really big life shifting or life altering experience that launches them into their spiritual path. That's when most people will come to me and they're like, what am I doing? Why am I all of a sudden being called on a spiritual journey? I will tell you that there is not one certain way. This is not like going to medical school and, you have to go through this course and that course. It's all about listening to your higher self and trusting, but you're not just listening and trusting, you're taking action. So it's really a process of learning, accepting, allowing, taking action, and staying true to that. And I also believe that if you start in the highest vibrations, you will always be safe as you enter that space of the spirit realm. So working with the angels or God energy, or the deities, like whatever it is in the light, if you begin there, no matter where you go from there, you will always be protected, safe, and guided. That's my advice. And everyone has their own path. You may be looking at being an energy healer, or I do a lot of verbal. I'm really working with people, just giving message. But there are some people who are using their work, and there are many divinations, is what I'm saying. So there isn't one way, but as long as you're bringing light to the world, you can do no wrong.
Couldn't have said it better myself. I agree with that. As long as you're being a light and you're bringing light,
Yeah.
you're doing the right thing. Brandie, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking time out of your busy schedule, chopping it up with me. Where can people get in touch with you, follow you, all that stuff? Plug all your channels in of communication. I want to hear about it.
Yeah. Brandie Wells, Breakthrough Medium, and it's Brandie Wells, Breakthrough Medium. I love Facebook. As I said, it's my favorite platform of interacting with clients and really bringing positivity. I also work through Instagram on my store, which is Shadow and Soul Emporium. You can follow that on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We have a lot of fun with the store. And I also am really excited because I am in the midst of launching a YouTube channel. And my best friend is a filmmaker, and she's been in business just as long as I have. And we're both very positive, loving people who want to bring positive, loving messages. And so we've been working on several episodes before we launch, but I'm excited about it because it is going to come out this year.
That's awesome. I'll look forward to that. I'll
Oh,
follow
and my
you.
website.
Oh, yes, please.
It's brandiewells.com. It's just BRANDIE wells.com, and it is registered.
There's no one trying to sell that for $5,000.
Nope.
That's yours. Well, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. You have a fan in life in me. I appreciate you doing this. That is going to do it for this episode of the Reyes Reflection podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, ARAVE Cards, Jocko Fuel, Mad Rabbit Tattoo Aftercare, and SMACKIN Sunflower Seeds for supporting today's episode. And to all our listeners, remember, may you live, may you love, and may you thrive. I'm Oprah as a dude, and I love you all.